That's wonderful. And you mentioned about ascending into a fourth density consciousness. But do you believe we can achieve or allow these states of five density, six density, seventh, or even oneness within ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way that the raw material lays it out is that the densities are sort of like stages in the soul's evolution. But, many of us here today are likely wanderers from higher densities, sixth, fifth, or fourth. And so a lot of us are bringing that vibration, a fifth density vibration or a sixth, to this now fourth density planet. And so,
Mhm.
like, the lessons of those densities are always available, but we do have to, we have to follow the steps, right? So there's no skipping steps in your evolution. So, like, until you really have integrated and embodied and understood the lessons of fourth density, you can try to understand fifth density, but it's not going to make any sense to you or be very accessible to you. So that's kind of part of the journey of every unique individual, of figuring out through the life lessons that are coming at you in this game we're playing, of, what's being asked of me to learn in this incarnation. And, if those lessons are love, it'll be very obvious, because the universe will bring you experiences that demand you to forgive and to love people, right?
That's wonderful. Yes. And mainly those are the lessons of fourth density, love and understanding. And I see five density as being of light and wisdom, and six density being unity. And those are the ones that I love on knowing more about. What would you say is the main difference between fifth density and the sixth density in your understanding?
In my understanding, like you said, sixth density is really just about balance. So, like in fourth density, you kind of swing really far to we could say, the feminine end of the spectrum of just blind, unconditional love, right? Ra talks a bit about like the foolishness of love, that it just
Yeah.
gives itself without any thought of itself whatsoever. But then, in fifth density, that, tendency towards martyrdom and self-sacrifice in fourth density, which is totally noble and beautiful and virtuous, is at the same time sort of seen as like a bit of folly, or not the maybe most intelligent approach to service. So in fifth density, Ra explains that fifth density beings swing really far to the masculine end of the spectrum, and they spend most of their time alone, in solitude, in contemplation and meditation, and working on their own abilities of in consciousness. And the powers of consciousness become very strong in fifth density. But then in sixth density, you have to kind of swing back a bit towards the feminine and find that middle ground where you achieve a perfect balance of love and wisdom. And, the sixth density is the second to longest density, I believe.
Mhm.
So, that balancing practice apparently takes a long time to master, because those two polarities are always kind of demanding of one another. You know what I mean?
Yes, completely. And I never saw it that way of usually balancing completely the sixth density, the love and wisdom. I just saw it more as like you're just already so much high consciousness that you can do just nothing and be by yourself and anchor the codes and bring them into earth. But you say that's more of fifth density. And then
Yes.
the balance is when you're in sixth density completely, that you master that love and wisdom and you know how much to give, not to overly give of yourself, and also wise enough to be of service, but also staying in your center. So kind of like
Right.
being like the monk, but also playing giving to others. Would you say it's like that?
Yes. Yeah, you could say like a combination between
Yeah.
Mother Teresa and Ramana Maharshi or something, right?
Oh, wow. Yes. Mm.
But also in terms of sixth density, in achieving that balance, Ra explains that what the sixth density soul does is it sort of turns back in time and serves as a guide to all of its previous incarnations. And that's what we call the higher self.
Yes.
And so the higher self, you can imagine how difficult it might be to know just how much to help or not help, to not infringe on free will, so as to allow that soul to really let life teach them the lessons they need,
Mhm.
but still give them helpful pointers to have the most efficient path to growth, right? I mean, that's something that probably takes, millions of years of practice to master, so to speak. And so each and every one of us will eventually become the higher self, and right now already are the higher self, right?
Mm.
Helping us in this stage of our growth. So it's all kind of happening simultaneously, but it's really that I think in mid sixth density is when you become the higher self. And that's where I think the lessons of balancing become really, really more intensified.
Yes, because everything happens simultaneously. So you have access to that information of higher self. So you believe you
Exactly.
can be higher self embodied and also keep learning lessons while being on earth.
Exactly. And, the higher self is also learning lessons through the way that it helps its previous lifetimes, right?
Oh, I think
Pretty
that,
amazing.
yeah, that's amazing. It's just like a whole cosmic joke. It's higher self knowing all the possible timelines and probabilities and probable futures, and it's just going through you in the different stages of your ascension into your fourth density. So you learn how to balance love and wisdom and finally embody that higher self moment to moment. That's why
Right.
it's called the mirror consciousness completely when you are in that embodied higher self, because then you can be completely empty and just see through all the illusions and all the distortions and just feel the subtler energies.
Exactly. It sort of needs to come from an effortless place of being to where your own frequency itself is sort of dictating your actions and when to intervene and when not to. It has to be an intuitive thing, not a psychological thing.
Mm. And would you say you have allowed that state for yourself?
I've certainly been growing into it for the last few years for sure. And it's such a beautiful process to experience within yourself. And I think that these discoveries we make along this journey to self-realization are really what allow you to truly develop and cultivate authentic self-love, the kind of self-love that's not based on you as what you've done or achieved or who you are in the world or how you look or any of that surface level stuff, but to know and experience your own being as being that guide, that all-knowing principle that moves you through life effortlessly and automatically. When you start to realize, oh, that is me in there, actually, and all the other stuff is the not self, right? I've just been confused. That's when how could you not fall in love with that? And then when you fall in love with your own being,
Mm.
you recognize it everywhere, and then everyone you see becomes a path to heaven, right?
Wow, that's so beautiful. I feel exactly the same way. It's just being in that unconditional love, in that joy, in that bliss, and just sharing your excitement moment to moment. And that's being in your highest self and
Yep.
just trusting that completely and being of service to others while you don't even have to think about being in balance because you are the balance by being in that joy
Bingo.
and being in that effortless beingness.
Well said.
Yeah.